Tuya was a lonely nerd, so ugly it actually hurt, living a life as dull as mine. Until one day, a bolt of lightning came crashing down from the sky, and in the blink of an eye, he was gone. Suddenly he found himself standing before God, who awkwardly apologized for the mistake. Apparently, God had just been trying to impress his cocky friend Zeus, but ended up losing control of the lightning bolt. To make up for the premature death, God offered Tuya a second chance, to be reincarnated in a world full of magic, taking his smartphone along, since he was addicted to watching videos of cute Lolas. The moment he opened his eyes in this new world, his phone rang. It was God, telling him he could call anytime. Impatient, Tuya hung up and began to explore. As he walked, a carriage suddenly stopped in front of him. A man rushed out, fascinated by Tuya's modern, stylish clothes. Without wasting a second, the guy dragged him to a shop in the city center. There, he paid Tuya to do a private show, only to hand him a set of clothes typical of that world afterward. A little embarrassed but unharmed, Tuya moved on. Using Google Maps, he found a cheap inn. On the way there, while passing through an alley, he noticed two girls arguing with a couple of shady-looking guys who seemed to have walked straight out of some eccentric parade, holding a glass object shaped like, well, let's just say it was a peculiar item. The men were trying to scam the girls, offering far less money than the object was worth. Tuya couldn't hold back. He stepped in, offered a gold coin for the item, and on impulse, picked up a stone and smashed it to pieces. The guys went furious and charged at him. Luckily, God had boosted his stats, making him strong enough to only fear, let's say, some seriously powerful thighs. When the first man lunged at him with a knife, Tuya, with superhero reflexes, dodged and took him down with a single elbow strike. The girls handled the other one. Then, Tuya handed the gold coin to the girls for the broken item. They introduced themselves as Elze and Lindsay, twin sisters who worked in the city. He asked if they knew a place to stay, and they took him to the nearest inn. Once there, Tuya turned on the charm with the receptionist, which made the twins a bit jealous as they drank their tea. Elze suggested they visit the Adventurers Guild the next day. After a good night's sleep, they set out. At the guild, Tuya realized he couldn't read a thing. Lindsay, with her straightforward tone, teased him, calling him illiterate. Elze, more practical, picked a quest to hunt wolves in the forest. After registering, they got a sword for Tuya and set off. In the forest, they were surrounded by feral wolves. One lunged at Elze, but she punched it so hard the beast went flying. Tuya, wielding his sword, sliced another one clean in half, while Lindsay, with a fire spell, turned hers into a walking barbecue, leaving Tuya speechless. Back at the guild, they sold the wolves' horns and relaxed over tea. Tuya asked the girls to teach him about their world and its magic. Lindsay, with her sharp wit, told him that a complete idiot like him could never use magic since only those with mana could manipulate it. Curious, Tuya asked if there was a way to test it. Lindsay pulled out a crystal she had enchanted herself, recited a spell, and the crystal glowed, dripping water like a waterfall. Elze tried, but nothing happened. She was a normie with no mana. When Tuya took the crystal and tried the spell, his ridiculous charisma made it gush water, leaving the twins stunned. They took him outside to test other crystals. One by one, Tuya activated them all, showing that God had blessed him with affinity for all 6 elements, something unheard of. Then, he picked up a strange crystal, and Lindsay explained it was for null magic, like Elze's, which boosted her strength to knock out enemies. Tuya gave it a try, and to everyone's shock, he opened a portal in midair, practically unlocking fast travel. After so many adventures, they headed back inside. The innkeeper, along with her friend who owned a cafe, asked for a dessert recipe to beat the heat. Tuya asked if they knew what ice cream was, and they looked confused. He used his phone to find a recipe and got to work, joking that Elze was a sandwich of stupidity. The ice cream was a hit, earning Tuya a well-accompanied night. The next day, as they strolled through the city, they heard shouts from a crowd. They ran over and saw a samurai girl dressed in pink facing off against a gang of thugs. 2 of them, mean-looking and rough, rushed at her. The samurai girl in pink was sharper than ever, thanks to a marathon of the new Bakey season. With precise movements, she dispatched the thugs without even blinking. But before she could catch her breath, one of the goons sneaked up behind her with a sword in hand. Tuya, quick as lightning, cast an earth spell, throwing sand into the guy's eyes, then landed a movie-worthy kick straight to his face. Elze wasn't far behind, jumping into the fight and knocking out the remaining thugs with her deadly punches. The terrified villains fled and hid in an alley. The samurai, still panting, thanked them and introduced herself as Yai, her eyes gleaming with hunger. Seeing the situation, Tuya took everyone to a restaurant where Ye devoured an impressive amount of greasy food. Between bites, she explained that she came from a family of warriors from a nearby kingdom and was traveling to hone her combat skills. The conversation flowed naturally, and Tuya, with his irresistible charm, managed to convince Ye to join their group without much effort. After lunch, they boarded a carriage and crossed forests while Tuya dove into a null magic book Lindsay had given him. He learned a spell that pulled objects back to him. Testing it, he yanked Ye's headband right off, and it flew back to his hand. Excited, he decided to learn another spell, this one to enhance his sense of smell. The moment he finished, he caught a strong scent of blood nearby. Without hesitation, they ran toward it and found a group of men cornered by monstrous lizards. Lindsay launched a magical explosion that sent the creatures flying, while Elsa punched and Ye slashed with her sword. During the fight, Ye stumbled, giving one monster an opening, but Tuya used another spell to make the beast slip and fall. Ye took advantage and finished it off instantly. Just when they thought the battle was over, a hooded man appeared, summoning even more monsters. Elsa and Ye charged in, but they were at a disadvantage. Lindsay shouted for Tuya to target the hooded guy, since he seemed to be controlling the creatures. Tuya, with a mischievous grin, cast his slipping spell, making the man fall on his butt repeatedly until he was captured and humiliated. With the battle done, the rescued men thanked Tuya profusely. But before he could reply, screams echoed from a nearby carriage. They ran to it and found an old butler wounded, bleeding on the ground, an arrow lodged in his chest, while a girl sobbed desperately, begging Tuya to save him. Lindsay explained she couldn't use healing magic while the arrow was still in the body. Tuya, with precision, used his pulling spell to extract it, impressing Lindsay with his control. Then she healed the butler, who came back to life as if nothing had happened. The relieved girl thanked him, and the butler revealed she was a princess. Everyone knelt, except Tuya, who with his cool, no-authority attitude, stood firm like a true leading man. The princess introduced herself as Sushi and asked Tuya to be her bodyguard to the royal capital, promising a handsome reward. He agreed, and they all departed in carriages toward the palace. Upon arrival, they were stunned by the size of the place. It looked straight out of a fairy tale. Sushi's father, the Duke, came down to greet them, and, in an exaggerated gesture of gratitude, practically threw himself at Tuya's feet for saving his daughter. That night, over tea, the Duke opened up, confessing that his life wasn't easy. His wife was a starfish in bed, and bandits were constantly trying to kidnap Sushi for ransom. The princess, arriving at the table, asked her father not to badmouth her mother, who, according to her, was basically Helen Keller. Curious, Tuya wanted to know more. The Duke explained that the Duchess had lost her sight years ago from watching too much TikTok, and the only one who could have cured her was his father, who had mastered null healing magic, but died of shock upon learning his granddaughter was addicted to the app. The girls looked at Tuya, aware of his null magic abilities. He agreed to try, but only if the Duchess was a tigress. The Duke led him to his wife, who was lively in bed, but Tuya, ever the gentleman, said he preferred to take ladies to dinner first. With a spell from a magic book that looked like an enchanted Kama Sutra, he healed her eyes. For the first time in years, she saw her husband's face and remembered why she'd married a rich man. Everyone gathered again for tea, now with a noble air. The grateful Duke offered 40 platinum coins, shocking the girls. 1 platinum coin was worth 10 gold ones, enough for a life of luxury. He also gave them medals that granted free passage through any territory. With that, they boarded their carriage and headed home. The next day, Tuya and his group of girls went out to explore the city, eager for something interesting. As they wandered, Tuya noticed the place was full of peculiar figures, almost as if the city had a touch of eccentricity. Tuya, intrigued by the city's hustle and bustle, noticed a group of fursons, furry creatures that, according to Elze, were considered cute in that world, without the weird vibe they might have elsewhere. He found that curious and kept watching. That's when he spotted a sad-looking furry girl alone on the street. Seeing an opportunity to expand his group, he approached her, but the girl grew defensive, stepping back and asking what he wanted. She explained that she had been separated from her sister and didn't trust strangers. Tuya, wearing a confident smile, pulled out his iPhone like it was a trophy and showed her his flashiest TikTok videos. The digital charm worked, and the girl, captivated, lowered her guard. With the help of Google Maps, Tuya found her sister and brought her back safe and sound. The sister thanked him profusely, and Tuya, along with the girls, continued exploring the city. Elze suggested they go shopping, and Tuya eagerly agreed, but proposed that everyone go separately and meet back at the inn later. When night fell, everyone was already there, except Tuya. After a while, he showed up running, wearing a coat so stylish he looked like the boss of a level 80 guild. The girls were impressed, completely forgetting his delay. The next morning during breakfast, a few idlers, the kind who spend all day asking for random things, convinced Tuya to open his crafting stand. He set up a chessboard to pass the time. While he was asking the innkeeper if she'd like to take a walk in the woods that night, Elze and Yae entered with umbrellas, soaked from the rain. Elze reminded Tuya that he had an appointment with the Duke and handed him some cakes to take as a gift. Tuya, who had completely forgotten, thanked her and headed to the Duke's mansion. There, everyone stuffed themselves with cake while the Duke invited Tuya to a game of shogi, Japanese chess. With no way out, Tuya agreed. They played for hours until Sushi, bored, started teasing and tickling Tuya. He patiently used a little trick to calm her down, making her fall asleep. He said his goodbyes to the Duke and returned for a quiet night's rest. The next day, Tuya, Elze, Lindsay, and Ye went to the Royal Guild, where the mission board was overflowing. Tuya chose one involving defeating a slime, dreaming of the epic scenes he might live through, but the girls immediately vetoed it. So he picked another mission, facing a headless knight. When they reached the ruins, they spotted the knight. Ye rushed forward, but the enemy countered and their swords clashed with force. Elze joined in, landing 2 powerful punches and a kick that sent the knight flying. To their surprise, the knight got back up and hurled his own head at Ye, who deflected it with her sword and threw it back. Elze knocked him down again with a kick, and before he could recover, Lindsay used ice magic to freeze him to the ground. Tuya finished it off with a light attack, driving glowing spears into the knight and taking him down for good. After the mission, they rested. Remembering an old dream, Tuya tried using magic to locate girls in the area, but found none nearby. Instead, he used his disco magic to search for treasure. He sensed the presence of an ancient relic hidden within the ruins, exciting the girls. They set out in search of it, arriving at a pile of rubble. Lindsay, at her best, cast an explosive spell that shattered the rocks, revealing a massive gate. They entered, descending a dark staircase lit by Lindsay's light magic. Elze and Yai, frightened, clung to Tuya from behind. After a long walk, they found a wall covered in inscriptions. Tuya, not understanding a thing, asked Lindsay to translate, but even she was stumped. The text was too ancient. So he used his phone to take a photo, and they continued onward. Farther ahead, they came across an earthen stone embedded in the wall, which required earth magic to activate. Tuya, the only one capable, stepped forward. After a rumble, the stone glowed and the door opened. Inside, they found a strange fossil. Clearing away the dust, Tuya saw a red core under glass. Suddenly, Lindsay's magic light began to flicker, and the core shone intensely. In the darkness, the fossil came to life, turning into an insectoid creature that emitted an ear-piercing screech, forcing everyone to cover their ears. The dungeon started shaking, about to collapse. Pumped with adrenaline, Tuya opened a portal with his magic, guiding everyone out of the dungeon, just as the insectoid creature turned into a walking bomb and exploded. For a moment, they thought they were safe, but the ground began to quake violently. A deafening explosion revealed the monster, now even angrier, charging at Tuya. He barely dodged, while Lindsay conjured fire arrows and launched them at the beast. To everyone's shock, the creature absorbed the flames like a snack. Ye, furious at the monster's oversized body, let her fear of fat get the best of her and charged with her sword, only managing to scratch the insect's hard shell before being thrown back. Elze, wanting to show who was boss, tried to attack, but was also repelled as the monster spun around like an out-of-control helicopter. Seeing the girls in trouble, Tuya used his slipping magic, making the insect trip. Lindsay seized the moment and summoned an iceberg worthy of the Titanic, which came crashing down on the monster. Enraged, Elze ran forward and kicked the ice, shattering the creature's legs. Everyone cheered, thinking the fight was over, but the insect, as if shouting, "Not so fast," extended one of its limbs and pierced Elze's shoulder. She dodged more attacks, running and hiding behind a rock. Tuya rushed to her side, using healing magic to close the wound, while Yae tried to face the monster again, without success. Lindsay, full of courage, summoned another iceberg, but the beast, a true tank, rose once more. That's when Tuya remembered he was the protagonist. With flawless skill, he used his pulling spell to rip the red core out of the insect and tossed it to Elze, who, with a grin that screamed, "I love smashing things," crushed the core. The monster froze instantly, fading away as if sucked into another dimension. Exhausted, they decided to return to the Duke's mansion to report what had happened. Tuya showed the photos of the ruins he had taken on his phone, and the Duke promised to investigate. After saying their goodbyes, they returned to the inn for a dreamless night's sleep. The next morning, Tuya used magic to print the photos into an album and opened another portal straight to the Duke's mansion. Upon arrival, he found the Duke rushing out of his carriage. The man ran up to Tuya, explaining that his brother, the king, had been poisoned. Tuya jumped into the carriage as the Duke explained that they suspected the neighboring kingdom wanted the king dead to place his young daughter on the throne. An easy target. At the palace, as they climbed the stairs, they encountered a man named Count Fatty. He suggested that the envoy from the neighboring kingdom be executed, but the Duke refused and moved on. Tuya, who didn't like the Count one bit, used his slipping magic to make him trip, just out of spite. They reached the king's chamber, where he lay pale and weak. The Duke ordered Talia to act. Using his recovery magic, Tuya neutralized the poison and healed the king completely. Everyone was stunned. The first princess, Yumina, ran to embrace her father, while a green-haired mage, clearly smitten, approached Tuya, saying she wanted to learn everything about the spells that came from his magic wand. The atmosphere in the room grew warm, with all the girls visibly charmed by Tuya. Changing the subject, the king asked the general about the culprit. They brought in the suspect, none other than the sister of the furry girl Tuya had helped earlier. He defended her, telling the king he didn't believe she was guilty. The general took him to the king's quarters and offered him a drink, which Tuya declined, joking that he wasn't a depraved alcoholic. Using his magic, he traced the poison and asked that everyone be summoned, including Count Fatty. With everyone gathered, Tuya served wine to the general, who drank it without issue, proving the wine wasn't poisoned. Then he offered wine from the king's cup to the count, who refused. The impatient general forced the man to drink. The count panicked, thinking he was going to die. But Tuya revealed he had removed the poison from the cup. He explained that Count Fatty had poisoned only the king's cup in a bid for power, and that Olga, the furry girl, was innocent. The queen and Yumina, visibly impressed by Tuya, looked as if they were melting. The count tried to flee, but Tuya made him slip with his magic, sending Yumina into a moment of bliss. Everyone sat down for tea, and as Tuya chatted with the king, Yumina suddenly stood up, declaring she had decided to marry him, because she liked guys who didn't give her the time of day. The declaration shocked everyone, including Tuya, who was left speechless. The royal family exploded with joy at Yumina's decision, already planning party after party to celebrate. But Tuya, with his Sigma male energy, turned down the proposal on the spot. The king, unfazed, revealed that Yumina possessed a magic eye capable of seeing a person's special powers. Tuya, realizing what that meant, finally understood why she spent all day staring at his pants. With a mischievous grin, he said he'd only think about marriage in 2 years, after he'd enjoyed more adventures, and even winked at the queen, making the atmosphere heavy with tension. Exhausted, he went downstairs to rest, but his phone rang. It was God again, congratulating him on his engagement and dropping a bar-style piece of advice. These girls ain't loyal. Annoyed by the divine meddling, Tuya hung up and crashed onto the bed. The next day, he returned to the inn with Yumina in tow, catching the girls off guard. They already struggled to share Tuya's overwhelming charm, and now they had another rival. Yumina, without hesitation, announced that she'd be living with Tuya and registering at the guild. Later, they decided to head to the forest so Yumina could test her abilities. They picked an easy mission, hunting monkeys. Tuya thought it would be a breeze. Wanting to impress, Yumina used summoning magic, and a group of cute dogs appeared from a magic circle, running into the forest after the monkeys. Everyone praised her magic until a loud crash echoed. Suddenly, giant gorillas appeared, chasing the dogs. Yumina wasted no time and landed a precise shot right in a gorilla's head. Yae finished it off with her sword, while Lindsay launched a firestorm that roasted another. Yumina took down one more with another perfect shot. Not wanting to be left out, Elsie jumped in and knocked a gorilla out with a single punch. Lindsay and Yumina combined lightning and fire spells to finish the last two, ending the fight. The girls cheered for Yumina, and somehow, Tuya managed to balance all those women around him without losing his composure. Back at the inn, Yumina began teaching Tuya about summoning magic. On his first try, he summoned a dark entity that transformed into a massive white tiger. Yumina was stunned. It was one of the rarest beasts. Tuya, confident, placed his hand on the tiger's forehead, and as soon as it felt his magical power, it fainted on the spot. The tiger shrank into a cub and became his pet, named Kohaku. Tuya asked it to shrink down to avoid attention, and the tiger turned into an adorable kitten. The next day, Tuya and the group took on a mission to investigate a castle used as a slime lab. Only Tuya seemed excited. As soon as they entered, a giant bucket dropped onto his head. It was a slime. They moved on to a library where they found a book with information about slimes. They took it and pressed forward. Soon, they came across green slimes known for eating clothes. The girls were horrified, but Tuya oddly seemed calm about the idea of slimes sticking to them and stopped Lindsay from using fire magic. He glanced at Kohaku and asked him to handle it. The kitten turned back into a tiger and blew a stinky breath at the slimes, but the attack was useless, and the creatures bounced back. Tuya told everyone to run upstairs, but Elsie slipped on a slippery substance, the same kind of lotion Tuya suspiciously used at night. Everyone slid back down the stairs except for Tuya, who was saved by Kohaku. The girls fell right into the slimes, which began attacking them. Tuya opened a portal to rescue them, but took a bit too long, enjoying the plot on display. Furious, Elsie landed a well-placed punch, ensuring Tuya wouldn't be spreading his genes anytime soon. They continued through the halls and found statues that turned out to be special slimes, drawn to girls with less developed plots. They rushed toward Yumina, who used wind magic to obliterate them. Exhausted, the girls voted to burn down the castle, calling it a den for lonely degenerates. The next day, Tuya took Kohaku for a walk around town. He saw Yae talking to a lost girl. Yae explained the situation, and Tuya tried to use magic to find the girl's family. But it didn't work. So he turned to Google Maps and located her mother, a stunning elf, speaking with a guard. They returned the girl safely, and Ye, fascinated by the iPhone, asked Tuya to check if her half-brother was okay. At a restaurant, she told him that her brother always helped her, even in awkward situations, like when she got stuck in a washing machine. Tuya promised to find him. Back at the inn, Lindsay showed up asking for help with an old magical scroll she couldn't read. Using his creativity, Tuya conjured magical glasses that could translate any language. Linz read the scroll, which taught a powerful offensive spell, leaving her thrilled. Excited by the scroll, Linz asked Tuya to help her master the new offensive spell. They went outside the inn, where she tried over and over to cast a water attack. She drained all her mana and collapsed into Tuya's arms, exhausted. He carried her back and gently laid her in bed. The next day, he found Lindsay in the forest, stubbornly practicing again. Without a second thought, Tuya grabbed her arm and transferred magical energy into her, without any protection. Lindsay immediately felt recharged. He explained he had learned the technique from the queen at the castle. Energized, she tried the spell again, but failed. Discouraged, she said she couldn't do it. Tuya, with some motivational words, encouraged her to keep trying. This time, Lindsay focused and launched the spell perfectly, destroying an entire tree with a jet of water. The next day, they faced a stone demon. Lindsay used her new water magic to weaken it, while Elsa, with her combat gloves, finished the monster off, but broke her gloves in the process. Seeing Elsa looking down, Tuya took her to the royal capital to buy new ones. There, she was captivated by a dress in a shop window. Tuya took her inside, where they joked and teased each other like they were in a playful make-believe game. But Yumina appeared, interrupting the moment, and announced that the king was summoning Tuya for urgent matters, leaving everyone surprised. Upon arriving at the palace, the king, in a tone of gratitude, gifted Tuya an entire mansion for getting involved with his daughter. Tuya, accompanied by his group of girls, went to see the property. The mansion was breathtaking, with gardens that looked straight out of a fairy tale. He invited all the girls to live there, which caught them off guard, since the gift was meant for him and Yumina. But Tuya, with his leading man confidence, wanted everyone close, leaving mere mortals like me green with envy. While playing with Kohaku outside, Yumina called him in to meet the staff, a dull butler named Lame, and two maids with well-developed plots. Lame informed them that the Duke and Sushi had arrived. Tuya and Yumina welcomed them for tea, and the Duke asked Tuya to become an ambassador to improve relations with the neighboring kingdom, praising his unmatched charm. Tuya accepted without hesitation. The next day, soldiers from both kingdoms escorted Tuya on his journey. Along the way, he played chess with Olga, while the girls bet on the outcome like they were in a casino. That night, around a campfire, Tuya told the story of the ugly duckling, earning everyone's laughter. Suddenly, a beast soldier stood up, warning that bandits were surrounding them. Tuya, as confident as ever, pulled out his iPhone and, as if it were a superpower, located and paralyzed all the bandits with a tap. What kind of iPhone was that? They captured the bandits and tied them up while Tuya noticed Olga flirting with Lion, the captain of the Royal Knights. The girls, excited, convinced Tuya to help Lion out. The next day, Tuya found Lion buying something embarrassing at a shop. Blushing, Lion lied that it was for his mother, but Tuya, an expert in seduction, showed him how it was done. He offered Olga's younger sister her choice of any brooch, saying he'd pay for it. Realizing the move, Lion bought something expensive for Olga, hoping to impress her. While they walked through the city, Tuya and Kohaku sensed someone watching them, but couldn't find the culprit, and continued with the caravan. Olga warned they wouldn't reach the village that night, so they camped. Suddenly, the forest animals began to scream. Looking to the sky, they were horrified to see a massive dragon flying above. Olga explained that someone must have entered its territory, making it furious. Tuya checked his iPhone, which miraculously showed the dragon heading for the village. They ran there, but arrived too late. The village was in flames, like a burning Canadian forest, with the dragon spewing fire. The soldiers rushed to save the villagers, while Tuya launched a magical light spear at the dragon. The beast dodged and countered with a fire blast. Tuya leapt onto Kohaku, dodging the flames, and grabbed Lindsay, who ended up with her face full of cake amid the chaos. In the clearing, Kohaku taunted the dragon with insults worthy of an online game, while Tuya fired multiple light spears, piercing the monster. The dragon fell, but turned toward Lindsay, who sliced its wings off with a jet of water. When it tried to breathe fire at her, Tuya saved her at the last second. Ye jumped in, blinding the dragon with her sword, and Elze, with a punch worthy of the cosmos, finished the beast off with a devastating blow. Tuya, realizing the dragon wouldn't go down easily, remembered he was the hero of the story. He charged forward with his sword, but the blade shattered like a toy. Before things could get worse, a knife flew out of nowhere, striking the dragon in the eye. The beast went berserk, spewing flames and burning everything around. Tuya, unfazed, shouted, "Take this!" and unleashed his light magic, while Lindsay created a magical lens to amplify the blast. The blazing beam incinerated the dragon, which crashed dead to the ground. But suddenly, a massive red dragon appeared. apologizing for the destruction caused by the black dragon. Kohaku, the white tiger, muttered something about black lives not mattering, but Tuya silenced him with a glare and accepted the apology. The red dragon flew back home. Exhausted, everyone helped rebuild the village and heal the wounded before collapsing into sleep. The next morning, after a refreshing rest, Toya and the group were preparing to leave when the village elder approached. Grateful for their help, he handed Tuya a dragon fang and a small knife found lodged in its eye, reminding him of the incident. After their farewells, they boarded the caravan. Tuya asked Kohaku if anyone else had been in the forest the previous night. She revealed that two mysterious figures had thrown the knife at the dragon. Tuya decided to leave the matter aside for now. They arrived at the neighboring kingdom, whose palace looked like the Taj Mahal in all its splendor. They bowed before the king, who thanked them for saving the village and slaying the dragon. Yumina stepped forward, presenting documents to seal the alliance between their kingdoms, which greatly pleased the king. He invited everyone to enjoy their stay at the palace, but before letting them go, he asked Tuya if he had truly defeated the dragon and challenged him to a duel. In the arena, a minister approached, apologizing and explaining that the king needed a lesson, and only Tuya could give it to him. The king, all hyped up and acting tough, prepared his weapons. When the bell rang, Tuya used his slipping magic, making the king fall flat on his face. With his sword at the man's throat, he won the first round. As Tuya tried to leave, the king whined, begging him not to use that magic again. In the second round, the king charged with brute force, pushing Tuya back. Tuya countered, but the king vanished, trying to strike from behind. Tuya dodged and used an acceleration spell, appearing behind the king, leaving him stunned. The two clashed at high speed, but Tuya, faster, landed the final blow, winning again. That night, a massive feast was held. Everyone wore traditional attire, and the girls in Tuya's group appeared in dazzling Indian-style outfits that took his breath away. He snapped pictures with his phone, and the king, wanting a copy to ease his loneliness at night, asked Tuya to print them for him. In a quiet corner, Tuya was fiddling with his phone to unwind when a teddy bear walked past, waving for him to follow. Curious, he entered a room full of furniture where the bear sat on the lap of a girl. She introduced herself as Lean, explaining that her null magic could bring objects to life. To prove it, she animated a chair that hugged Tuya. When he tried the spell himself and sat down, the chair began to move, startling him. Lean was thrilled, but Tuya, already done with the day, bolted out and locked himself in his room. The next morning, he found Lindsay and Yumina strolling around. Remembering the dragon fang, he took them to the garden and asked Lindsay to use her magic to cut it. With the pieces, Tuya used magic to craft a pistol and bullets, like a true American. Then he enchanted the gun to reload itself and fired at a poor tree. The girls, impressed, begged for their own weapons, and Tuya, as responsible as ever, made pistols for them too. To top it off, he transformed his weapon into a hybrid sword-gun combo, calling it a day. They went out for lunch in the city, but when they returned that night, Tuya again felt like someone was watching them. Relying on his sharp instincts, Tuya told Kohaku to protect the girls and used his acceleration magic to appear behind the observers. Before he could reach them, they threw a flash grenade and ran. But Tuya's iPhone, straight out of a spy movie, tracked them instantly. He caught up quickly and took them down with rubber bullets. As he tied them up and tried to remove their masks, he accidentally grabbed something, well, let's just say something very soft. When he finally saw their faces, he discovered they were the palace's hot maids. They apologized, explaining that the king had ordered them to follow Yumina. Tuya, ever the charmer, let them go and returned to the palace. The next day, he opened a portal connecting the two kingdoms. The local king met with the Beast King from the royal capital, sealing their alliance. Tuya and his group returned to the mansion through the portal, and he, exhausted, fell into bed, entering a mini coma. The next morning, to kill time, he started crafting bicycles. The Duke arrived, curious, and Tuya let him try one, but he fell immediately. Tuya made more bikes for the girls, who raced to impress him. Surprisingly, the Duke won the race, though everyone ended up exhausted. He asked Tuya to make a smaller bicycle for Sushi, so Tuya went into town to buy materials. There, he heard noise in an alley and found two men with knives threatening a raggedly dressed girl. Tuya told them to scram, and when they didn't, he fired his pistol with the full energy of making America great again. The frightened girl began following him. He took her to eat and learned that she was an orphan, abandoned by a father who went out to buy milk years ago. Touched by her story, Tuya brought her to the mansion and put her under the care of Lame, the dull butler. The next day, at Sushi's request, Tuya and Yumina traveled to the Beast Kingdom, where they met Arma, Olga's sister. She was happy to see them, but soon they spotted Olga and Lion walking together. Out of sheer curiosity, they decided to follow. When the couple entered a cafe, Tuya used his iPhone's Netflix to spy on them. When they came out, everyone fled, but Arma bumped into a hooded man and fell. It was the Beast King himself, who who liked to walk around in disguise, feeling like Batman. They continued to watch Olga and Lion in the park until hooligans started harassing a vendor. Lion stood up to defend him, but one of the thugs pulled out knives. Tuya and the Beast King, wearing ridiculous masks, jumped in and beat up the thugs, thinking they wouldn't be recognized. But Lion immediately figured out it was Tuya and caught him before he could escape. That night, back at the mansion, Lame announced there were visitors. Lean and Charlotte, the green-haired mage, both clearly smitten with Tuya. During tea, Lean mentioned the crystal insect they had fought before, explaining they had found a similar monster in some ruins but couldn't defeat it. She wanted to learn more and proposed a trip to Ishan, Ye's homeland. Lean had Tuya and Yai stand in a magic circle, hold hands, and press their foreheads together, showing Tuya a vision of Ishan. With a spell, she transported them there. The wild landscape mesmerized them, and Ye guided the group to her town, which looked like ancient Japan. Lindsay, Elze, and Yumina, all from a world with medieval European vibes, were amazed. Tuya, with his Japanese knowledge, explained the customs, impressing Ye, who took them to meet her parents. At her house, Ye asked about her father and brother, but her mother, saddened, revealed that the local lord had taken them into battle, and now they were surrounded by enemy soldiers in a fortress. Desperate, Ye begged Tuya for help. Without hesitation, he agreed and said he'd enter the fortress alone through a portal, calling the others only if it was safe. Upon stepping through the portal, he was immediately surrounded by guards. Jushiro, Yae's brother, pointed a sword at his neck. Tuya explained that he was Yae's friend, but Jushiro, suspicious, demanded proof. Without wasting a second, Tuya opened another portal, and Yae ran through to hug Jushiro in an emotional reunion. The rest of Tuya's girls followed behind. Looking outside, he saw thousands of zombified soldiers wearing enchanted masks marching toward the fortress. The defending forces, exhausted and wounded, couldn't hold them off. Worried, Yae asked about her father, and Jushiro replied that he was guarding the local lord. Assessing the situation, Tuya pulled out his iPhone and, with a magical trick, healed all the wounded soldiers inside the fortress. Jushiro, stunned, thought he must be some kind of sorcerer. Yae, smiling, reassured her brother that Tuya was just that cool. To prove it, Tuya marked all the enemies on his phone's map and unleashed a lightning spear attack so powerful it obliterated all the zombies at once, ending the battle. The local lord, named Aichi, summoned them and thanked them profusely, but warned that the war was far from over. According to him, the neighboring lord had been captured and imprisoned by a manipulative enemy who created monsters to conquer the world. Before they could continue, a ninja dropped from the ceiling, carrying a breathtaking plot. She introduced herself as Suzuka, servant of the imprisoned lord, and explained that he needed Aichi's help to regain control and defeat the villain. Tuya offered to assist. Aichi prepared horses, but Tuya, with his usual flair, asked Suzuka to close her eyes and picture the enemy camp. He held her hands, making the other girls turn green with jealousy, and used magic to locate the place. He decided to go with Suzuka and Lean, asking Lean to cast an invisibility spell on them. Lean, taking advantage of the moment, teased Suzuka about her personality, blaming Tuya, who just rolled his eyes. He tried to open a portal to the prison in the camp, but failed. Lean explained that the enemy was using an anti-teleportation spell. Luckily, Suzuka was authorized to enter the camp. They followed her through underground tunnels to the cell where the lord, named Baba, was imprisoned. Tuya blasted a hole in the wall with magic, joking that it was nothing compared to the hole in his heart. They freed Baba and two young captives, but Tuya couldn't locate the villain Yama on his phone. Lean revealed that a magical item was blocking his magic. They went to the surface and found the object radiating purple energy. Tuya drew his pistol, making America proud, and summoned magic circles in the sky, firing bursts that destroyed the item. With the barrier broken, they teleported straight to Yama, who wore an eye patch just to look cool. One of the young men charged at him, but a zombie samurai blocked the strike and tried to slash Baba, who barely dodged. Suzuka, in tears, watched as Tuya pulled out his pistol and shot the samurai, stunning everyone. Yama laughed maniacally, tore off his eye patch, and revealed a red stone that granted him immortality and control over the zombies. Everyone thought it was over for them, but Tuya, using his pull magic, ripped the stone right out of Yama's hand. The villain began crying in despair. Lean analyzed the stone, said it was corrupted, tossed it into the air, and Tuya blew it to pieces with a single shot. Stripped of his power source, Yama cursed Thanos as he crumbled into dust. The next day, Tuya spoke to Baba about his search for ancient ruins. Baba revealed the existence of an island with submerged ruins. Tuya used magic to locate it and returned with the group to Ye's home. Her parents, deeply moved, thanked him and tearfully said goodbye to their daughter. Through the portal, they arrived on the island. The girls, thrilled, began playing in the water but soon asked for swimsuits. Tuya gave in, opened a portal back to the kingdom, and invited the entire royal family for a vacation. The girls showed up in bikinis, comparing who had the best plot, while the king, duke, and general raced in the sea. Focused, Tuya cast a protection spell on his iPhone and dove in to find the ruins. Tuya dove into the underwater ruins, but after a few minutes, he located the site and started running out of air, forcing him to return to the surface. He told Lean what happened and asked if she knew any spell to breathe underwater for longer. Lean, who hated swimming, said she knew nothing and called Charlotte, the green-haired mage, who was just as useless. Suddenly, Kohaku spoke up, revealing that another celestial beast similar to her could swim indefinitely, and that if Tuya made a pact with it, he'd gain the same ability. Lean confirmed they could try. In a secluded area, she drew a magic circle and Tuya chanted an incantation to summon the beast. A shadow formed, turning into a giant turtle with a snake coiled around its shell. The turtle recognized Kohaku and began chatting with her, completely ignoring Tuya. Kohaku explained she was Tuya's familiar, shocking the turtle. She assured the creature that Tuya was strong and suggested forming a pact with him. The turtle, skeptical, challenged Tuya to a duel. If he could remain standing until sunset, it would accept the pact. Tuya agreed instantly. Before the turtle could strike, he used his slipping magic, making it topple onto its back. Drawing his pistol, he loaded a magic bullet and fired, making the turtle spin helplessly. After a few minutes, the creature, crying like a loser, begged for it to stop and accepted the pact, acknowledging Tuya's power. He named it Sango and asked it to shrink. The turtle transformed into a smaller, floating version of itself. At dusk, Tuya dove again, with Sango resting on his shoulders, gaining the ability to breathe and walk underwater. He entered the ruins and reached a chamber filled with gems arranged in a circle. When he touched the central gem, the room shone brightly, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself in a floating garden thousands of feet above the ground. A green-haired girl named Francesca introduced herself as the guardian of the aerial garden, created by a scientist named Regina. She explained that the underwater magic circle was a teleportation device and that the garden was invisible from the ground due to Regina's paranoid defense systems. Francesca, a mix between human and magical android, said that because Tuya could use all elemental magics, he was the perfect candidate to become the garden's new master. Dazed, he listened as she offered herself as his servant. Back on the beach, the girls were worried about his absence, but Tuya reappeared through a portal, bringing them all to the floating garden. Leon recognized the technology as relics from a lost, highly advanced civilization. Francesca, teasingly, lied that Tuya wanted to marry her, making the girls jealous. Yumina, however, calmed everyone down by suggesting they could all share Tuya, proposing that they all marry him together. Meanwhile, Lean questioned Francesca about any weapons or magical treasures. Francesca revealed that the garden was one of 10 aerial structures built by Regina 5,000 years ago, including a massive library, but she didn't know where the others were. The girls joined in the discussion, and Lindsay suggested Tuya use his phone to locate them, but he couldn't detect any signals. Suddenly, Francesca stood up and, in a tone reminiscent of an Indian phone scammer, told Tuya he needed to complete the registration, to officially assume ownership of the garden. But instead of asking for banking details, she started performing CPR on him, rather awkwardly. Then she announced that the garden was now officially his. Lindsay, unable to resist, corrected Francesca by demonstrating the proper CPR technique while the other girls watched, laughing and exchanging curious glances. Back at the mansion, Yumina barged into Tuya's room and with a determined look made him confess his feelings for Lindsay. Embarrassed, he admitted how he felt, but was quickly called out to the training grounds by Elze and Yai. The two clearly had something on their minds and challenged Tuya to a sparring match without magic. After hesitating, he agreed. The fight began, and Tuya drew his sword, blocking Ye's strike while dodging Elze's punch. Ye threw a knife, but he dodged and countered with his pistol, filling her with holes. Non-lethally, of course. Then he went after Elze, knocking her down with his weapon drawn, demanding her surrender. She refused, and to Tuya's surprise, his ammo pouch had been sliced, courtesy of Ye's knife. Elze seized the moment and knocked him out with a blow. When he woke up, the four girls, Yumina, Lindsay, Elze, and Yai, stood before him. Yumina, with a mischievous smile, announced that they had all decided they wanted to marry him, eager to experience the power of his magic wand. Tuya, embarrassed and secretly self-conscious about his below-average wand, opened a portal and fled to the floating garden. There, he vented to Francesca, who plugged a strange cable into a tablet, allowing Tuya to speak with Regina, the garden's creator. Regina revealed that her civilization had been absurdly advanced, with technology on par with Transformers and Jurassic Park. But it all fell apart when they released an app called TikTok, which led everyone into total degeneration, causing their extinction. She warned Tuya never to use TikTok and asked if he had any personal issues. A bit awkward, he confessed about his small wand. Regina suggested he talk to God, an idea Tuya thought was brilliant. He opened a portal and found God watching Game of Thrones. Without hesitation, Tuya explained his dilemma. God summoned the goddess of love, who laughed and said the problem wasn't size, it was stamina. Increase your endurance and everything will be fine, she assured him. Back at the mansion, Tuya gathered his harem and, with a serious tone, said he couldn't get married yet. He wanted their plots to develop further, and he needed to work on his stamina. But he promised, with a confident smile, that one day he would marry them all, leaving the girls dreaming about the future. And that's it, folks. If you've watched until now, don't forget to hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.